in the right room?
Hopefully.
Okay. My name is John Hahn. My office is in Brown 227. If you know where Miss Elizabeth Gowan is upstairs, I'm right around the corner from her. Let's see, you can get some more information about me if you go to Canvas. A lot of the materials for this course are on Canvas, so I strongly recommend that you go to Canvas and take a look at the materials there. Probably the ones that most students find helpful, or at least comforting, are things like notes, old exams from previous semesters, from a number of previous semesters are there. Not all of the exams are worked, but a lot of the exams are worked out, so you can take a look at solutions. Invariably, this question is, well, will tomorrow's exam be like the old exam? And the answer is, well, that's like asking Gus Malzahn if the tapes from last semester's games or last season's games are going to be like the way he's going to play the game tomorrow. And I think we probably have different opinions about that. Some will probably say, oh yeah, it's just like he did before. He has no creativity. And others will say, no, he's paid $1 gazillion, talking about me. And so my job is to make sure that the new exams are, you know, still a little bit challenging. But I think many students find the old exams helpful there. You'll see in Canvas, I've organized the material also. There's a calendar, kind of lets you know what's going to go on each day that we meet. And in the calendar of events, there's also a mention about homework. And if you click on each of the homework links, it'll take you to a file that says do these problems. And some of them are just problems out of the book. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit. So this is the book, Modern Control Systems. I want to talk a little bit about control systems today. This is the 12th edition. I think we're up to the 13th edition. But any edition, if you happen to have one from a brother or sister, fraternity, pal, will work. The material hasn't changed that much. Several years ago, I adopted the university's recommendation that we use the electronic version. So you probably should have received a message from the bookstore saying that you're already signed up to buy an electronic copy of the book. It's called All Access. You need to be aware that you've been signed up for it without your consent, okay? And in about 15 days, they're going to charge you $55.56 or something like that. Okay? They claim the new edition, if you buy one, is about close to $230. So the electronic edition is a lot cheaper. And I think that price gets it to you for about a semester, maybe a little bit more. Now, if you don't want it, because you're like me, you're old-fashioned, and you like books, you like to carry a book around, or if you have a copy, then you need to manually opt out, and there are instructions for how to do that in Canvas. If you have any questions about not taking the $55 or $56 charge, come see me. I don't know exactly how to do it. I know I can point you the directions to do it, but I implore you to take care of that before I think the 15th class date, which is right around September 9th, because on September 10th it'll show up on your e-bill. All right. So homework. Let me mention homework now. I'll come back to homework. I said the calendar talks about homework. Homework a lot of times refers to problems out of the book. Sometimes there are problems that I just made up myself. But these are not collected nor graded. They're not collected, not graded. They're really a test for you to kind of see whether you have any problems. If you have any issues and you don't understand how to do something, feel free to come in class and say, hey, I tried problem X and I can't do it. And we'll talk about it in class for the benefit, not all of yourself, but the rest of the class. So homework is like practice, and so I encourage you to try the homework problems, but again, they're not collected nor graded. The old exams may be helpful as well. Study carefully the grading policy. Okay, my grading policy is a little bit different than some faculty members. We basically will offer this semester 5 exams. Is that right? Yeah, I think it's 5 exams. 4 during the semester and a final examination, plus a design project, okay, which is basically involving the computer, learning to use MATLAB to study control systems and stuff. Now, all of the 5 exams, we keep the top 4. Means we drop one. Okay? You can drop any one of the 5. Now, this always causes some confusion because some students say, does that mean I can drop the final? I said, any one of the 5. Okay. Now, I found that over the years that this is helpful because what typically happens is this class will do well on exam 1. And about 80% of the classes say, gosh, he's a cupcake. His exams are easy. And then they kind of throttle back, and then on exam 2, they get killed. That happens almost every semester. And then they start worrying. I said, oh, I've blown my A, I'm down to a C. Well, the policy kind of allows you to kind of throw away exam 2 or exam 3, whichever one you kind of blow, but that means you got to take the final. At the same time, the policy kind of encourages you to keep up with the material on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And if you get to the end of the semester and you've got 4 exams that you like their grades, or you're just tired of me, you can say, sayonara, goodbye, I won't be here for the final exam. That will be the exam grade you drop. Okay, are there any questions about that grading policy as far as the exam goes? Yes?
Is the final cumulative?
Yes. All exams technically are cumulative, but if you look at the old exams, they don't look cumulative, but they kind of assume that you kind of remember something from the week before. Okay. Yes?
How much does the design project count for?
10%. Okay, so the exam count for 90% of the grade, and the design project is 10%. Everybody has to do the design project. Any other questions? Okay. I'll be happy to go over that policy again later on in the semester if necessary. Right, so again, repeating some things. A lot of material on Canvas, a lot more than this, but these are kind of the highlights. All right, let's talk a little bit about what are control systems. Okay. And basically, I want to focus on the word control. And my take on this control is basically, pen is dying. Control systems is all about making the world behave the way we would like. So this is an electrical engineering class, so you may think, well, all it's going to be about, control systems are all about electronics and things like that, but in reality it is not. Okay, control systems is a much more broad field than that. Control systems are covered not only in this department, but also mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, chemical engineering. And the thing that kind of knits us all together is we're trying to make the world behave. For example, if you're a mechanical engineer and you're working on a vehicle, you might be interested in cruise control. You want to move along your vehicle at a certain speed. You're controlling the speed. I have a buddy of mine who teaches in mechanical engineering, and we have a lot of projects together where we're doing some advanced things with vehicle dynamics, like trying to get convoys of trucks going down the road, and it's at the tip of the iceberg. It's a cruise control problem. If you're a chemical engineering, you might be looking at something that you're putting into a tank, orange juice, oil, might be interested in how much stuff is in the tank level, or possibly the concentration of something in the tank. You know, what's the acidity of my orange juice? Okay, these are all engineering type of things. But I'd like for you to be thinking that control systems can be more than just these geeky technical things. They're about things in life. Okay? And so you can look at control systems as a philosophical way to attack problems in life. Okay, everybody in life is going to attack problems a little bit differently. My wife is when she was in college, she was a finance major. Okay, so it's all about the bills. Okay, and how to make life go through money. Okay, she and I have totally different ways about handling money. My way of handling money is any penny you earn, you stick away in your pocket and hope never have to touch it again. Okay, and her way is money's no good unless it's in circulation many times, and the more times we can get it to pass through hands, the better it is. It concerns me, but I have to admit that my life has been much richer because of my wife's, doling out money to the world. Okay? So everybody looks at life differently. Control systems engineers can look at life through a certain format. Okay, so let me take a look right now at I'm going to start drawing a diagram that we're going to see over and over again this semester. And I'm going to use this diagram to kind of introduce some terminology. And so this is the most basic control system. And let me get some new pens. So this is a diagram we're going to use to introduce some terminology. And we're going to draw a diagram here. I'm going to try to fit it on this sheet here. And we're going to have this idea of this box here represents something that we're going to try to control. And we're going to call this the plant. It's a chemical plant. Okay, sometimes we use the word process. It's the thing that we're trying to control. Okay? This is the thing that we're trying to control is called the plant, or it's called the process. These seem a little bit out of focus to me, but now we're going to use arrows to represent signals. Okay, things that affect the process. So there's this idea here means there is some sort of thing that affects the plant or the process. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about an example of a plant, and just to show you how control systems can be looking at more than cruise control of a vehicle or the concentration of acid in a tank. Let's think of an interesting plant. Okay, so let me ask, what did you come to Auburn University for? School. Anything else? I'm going to guess that most of you are not married. Am I correct? Anybody in here married? Not a single one of you.
Not a single, just one of you.
Okay. All of you are single, I guess. So I strongly recommend that before you graduate, you try to find Mr. or Mrs. Right here also. Okay. Men, I can't speak for the women, men, you are in your prime right about now. They say that your life expectancy, it gets better and better right up to about mid-20s, and then it starts getting worse. You start getting old and falling apart. So if you don't find Mrs. Right soon, the chances get worse and worse for you. So one of the things that you need to earn at Auburn University is not only your BEE, your Bachelor of Electrical Engineering, but also your MR degree, your Mr. So degree. You gotta find Mrs., okay? So this is the process. We'll talk about it from a man's perspective. The ladies can also look at this. So this is the plant or the process whose behavior we would like to make right. Okay? And so
what we're gonna do is we're gonna put over here, this is the desired behavior. And in the control systems, we call this the reference. This is the reference, R-E-F-E. I'm gonna try to stay on the screen. This is the reference, okay? And this is the output. Okay, this is the output, this is the reference, this is the plant, this is the output. The output is the actual behavior. Okay. So, what is the actual, what is an example of the desired behavior? Okay, young man, I see some nice ladies up here. You may say, that one's particularly cute. I'd like to say, I would like for her to say, she says, yes. Okay, she says yes. The question might be like, hey, should we go get some coffee? And you would like her behavior to be, she says yes. Okay? Now, the output, the actual behavior is what she says. What she actually says. Okay? So, the output, the young lady says, this is what she actually says. In my mind, I would like for her to say yes to whatever my request is. You doing anything Friday night? You want to go to the movies? I would like for her to say yes. She is going to, of course, respond in a certain way. Now, what are the inputs? Okay, let's talk about some of the inputs. What are the ways that I can approach her? Okay, so in general, systems are very complicated. They have a lot of inputs, just like humans have a lot of inputs. Okay, so there can be things I say, what I say. I can speak to her. How many senses do we have? How many physical senses? A bunch, right? Okay, so she can hear what I say. I might be kind of fresh and offer her, hey, can I fill up your coffee for you? You know, I can ply her with food, right? Would I feed her? It doesn't have to be a young lady. It can be a dog. Okay, you want to train a dog? One of the ways you train a dog is you feed it something, right? We reward good behavior. Okay, you want the dog to sit, you say sit, and then you feed them something. That's an input. Okay, you say sit. That's an oral command the animal hears. That's an input. So there's a lot of different inputs into the process. Okay, what you say, what you feed. I hear the dating scene is different now than when I was a young man. Okay, but there's a lot of things going on. Of course, now a real control system also has other things going into the process, but we're going to try to keep this picture as basic as possible. Okay, so this is the problem that I have. Okay. Boy, this is still fuzzy. Okay, we'll try to make that as sharp as we can. We have a plant, process, the thing we're trying to control. It has inputs. In our class, we're going to try to make things as simple as possible. All these lines are just going to be a single signal. Okay, but in general, things are much, much more complex than this. Okay, dealing with women is very, very complicated. I've been married. How long have I been married? 35 years. Yeah, over 35 years. And the more I've learned is my wife is a remarkably sophisticated system whose inputs, it's complicated. It's marriage. Married life takes work. Okay? And control systems takes work. Okay, so this is what actually comes out of her mouth. It could be yes, it could be go away, it could be a slap across the face. Okay, now what I do is I compare that. I compare that to my desired behavior. So I draw a circle here, and I draw a box here. And what I do is I basically, this is a summing point. Okay, this is, it's not really a point, but it's a summing operation. And we typically will say, this is what I want, and I'm just going to do a mathematical difference between the two. I take the difference between what I hope she says, the reference behavior, and the actual behavior. The difference between the two is what we call the control system error. So this is the error. The output of this is the error. What does it mean when the error is 0? You got the response you wanted. Okay? So that's one of the measures of a control system is the error small. Okay? I drive it down. Let's go back to away from talking about women, because I see it's making some of the men in here a little uncomfortable. Yes, engineers, a little bit out of our domain. We prefer to work with the geeky stuff, right? Okay, so let's go back to cruise control. You watch the needle on your car. You say, I want to go at 72 miles an hour, just a little bit over the speed limit, but not enough to attract attention. And I hit the set button, right? And then I'm interested in knowing whether or not the car's going to hold it. And I kind of drive down the road, and I see like between here and Columbus, I got to go down US 280, and it's a pretty hilly road. It goes up and down like this. And you'll notice that the needle kind of goes down a little bit as you go up the hill, and then as you go down the hill, the needle kind of goes past the set point. And so there's typically a little bit of error. But the quality of the control system could be measured just by how close that needle sticks to 72 miles an hour. So one of the things we do is we look at the error. Now in control systems, what we do is if the error is not 0 or if the error is not small, then what we have is another thing, and that is what we call the controller. Okay? Some people will say this is the compensator. Okay, these are synonymous terms, the controller and the compensator. Okay? And in the context of this discussion, the dating scene, this is the young man. The young man is the controller. You, young man, have a choice of what you're going to say and do. Okay? Now, my wife, as I said before, was a finance major. Different personality. When she graduated from university, she went and sold Bibles door to door in Kentucky. Now, anybody know what this part of the country is called the Bible Belt? Everybody, almost everybody has a Bible in their home. And my wife is going to sell Bibles door to door. So that means most doors she knocks on, they're going to say what? When she says, hey, I'm from Southwestern Books, I'm selling King James Bibles. What are they going to say?
I already have one.
I already have one, or I don't need one. Okay? So she wants to make the sale. They're usually going to say no. And so that's not what she wants. So she's going to compensate, and she's going to do something. Now, depending on who this person is, the actions, the control actions to the customers will be different. If it was me selling it, I probably wouldn't have taken the job anyway, because I would have said, selling Bibles in the South? You know, that's just too hard work. But the moment she says, or the customer says, potential customer says, I already have one, I say, okay, thank you, and I go on to the next door. And I might do that 1 or 2 more times, and then I would get dejected and say, I think I'm just gonna go home and find something else to do. Now my wife is different. She's persistent. She's the one that says, you gotta be willing to accept that 9 out of 10 aren't gonna say no, but you might find 1 out of 10 who's gonna say yes. And so what that means is, this is where we have some freedom, okay? As controls engineers,
we can decide what we're gonna do here, okay? We don't have much control over this. We can't change this. You might as well learn that right now, young man. You're not gonna change your wife, okay? Even after 35 years of marriage, she's gonna be who she's gonna be. You can only change your behavior toward her, okay? This is what we change. So in control systems, this is what we design. We design this so that the overall system behaves nicely. Now we're gonna learn in this semester about what makes this overall system nice. Now, we're gonna learn that the behavior of this all by itself is one thing, but the behavior in a control system is going to be a different thing. Okay? Clearly, how the person behaves in a control system or in a feedback system is different than it was just all by itself. So, young lady with no inputs, nobody talks to her, nobody buys her flowers. Okay, you can imagine what her behavior is going to be like. But along comes a fine young buck, age 22. He's got six-pack abs. He looks like he washes his hair pretty regularly. He buys me coffee and brings me flowers. That young lady's behavior is now changed. Okay, so there's the behavior uncontrolled. We call this open loop. Okay, so we're going to hear this word open loop. Open loop means no control. And then we have this idea of closed loop. Okay, you see this picture here? There's a loop here. We see signals. They go along, follow the arrows through systems, they propagate around a loop. Okay? And so this is closed loop means that the system is under feedback action. The word feedback comes from the idea is that we're feeding back. This is called a feedback. This is the feedback path. The signal is feeding backwards. We usually think of as in Western culture is reading from left to right. So this is forward and this is backward. So this is a feedback system. A control system employs feedback. So one of the things that we're going to hopefully learn from this course is that feedback changes behavior. Feedback doesn't always make things better, however. Okay? We've all heard of maybe in the news of some poor professor in California got killed by his graduate student. You know, graduate student snuck up on the professor and whacked him over the head with a hammer. Now, if you know anything about graduate school, you probably have heard, you'll probably read the news and say, oh, the guy felt like his professor was just abusing him, just wouldn't let him graduate. Here's the student, here's the professor. The professor's pressuring the guy. The professor's hoping that the student will turn out to do miraculous things. But the student says, you're putting so much pressure on me. And the feedback system doesn't work out. And the student blows up and whacks the professor. Or we see this in child rearing. Here's the parent, here's the child. Okay? Some children need to have helicopter parents hovering over them all the time, saying, have you brushed your teeth today? Have you got your books? Have you got this and that? And they react very well to that type of structured control. Other kids, say, Mom, leave me alone. Okay? And so just because you're using feedback doesn't ensure that the things are always going to turn out better. Okay? We hope things turn out better, but that's the basic idea. Okay, so there are some terms that I'm going to try to highlight here. There's the reference. Okay, there's the output. There's the plant. The controller. The error. Okay, this signal here, what I say, what I feed the young lady, we call this the input. Is the input to the plant. Okay? Is the input to the plant. Okay? So when I say input,
I'm not, you can say, well, this looks like an input. Yes, this is also an input. It's an input to the system. This is what we're going to call the input to the plant. Okay, so this is the input to the plant. So it's the plant input. Okay, this is the system input. System input we call the reference. Okay, this is about the most basic control system that we could sketch. It's got something that we're trying to control. We have got a decision about how we're going to control it. Okay, what is the algorithm we're going to use? Okay. How many of you are in signed up for 30/40 here at the lab? Show of hands. Okay, so a lot of you are in lab this semester. You're going to see me again this afternoon at 3 o'clock. So your project by the end of this fall is this is going to be an electric motor. And we're going to control the speed. And you're going to have a desired speed, which you're going to select by punching on a keypad. And you're going to design some sort of system to change the amount of voltage that you apply to the motor so that the motor can speed up or slow down. And you want the thing to be behave nicely. You would like the actual speed, the output, the actual behavior to match the reference. Okay, so what are control systems? Let me back up a little bit. Making the world behave the way we would like. It could be technical things, you know. But I like to tell my students it's just a way of looking at life. Okay? It's not the only way to look at life. Like I said, my wife looks at things through the lens of a financier. I'm not very good at that. I admit I'm not very good at finances. I would prefer to deal with these sort of things. But I have a tendency, because I've been a controls engineer all my life, to look at almost everything in life as a type of control system, which means I put it in the context of this picture here. Is that there's something in life, whether it's my car, my dog, my children, my ever-growing body weight. These are all problems I'm trying to control, and I can decide how to change the behavior into the system by comparing the actual behavior with the reference behavior and making some sort of decision. All right. So if you take a look at Canvas, there's an assignment called Homework 0. These pages are drying out. Homework 0. Homework 0 is not described on Canvas, so I'm going to tell you what Homework 0 is. Again, it's not, because it's not described on Canvas what the homework is, I'm going to call it Homework 0, and it mentions it. And there's basically a couple things. I'd like you to first review the course content in Canvas, go to the syllabus, find out what's involved with this class. On the syllabus, there's a bio about me. It's a little bit about my background, where I was born, you know, all that sort of stuff. I hope you find it useful. But I'd like for you in Homework 0 to do your own interesting bio. Your own interesting bio. One of the things I learned many years ago when I first started teaching is it helps to understand the perspective of the student. Okay, so I'm asking you to give me a little bit of information about you. Tell me where you're from. Why are you here at Auburn? Tell me if I've taught your dad or mom. Tell me a little bit about what you hope to do in life. Okay? Your own interesting bio. And then what I'd like for you to do to finish this out is describe something in life in the context using the terminology of control systems. Okay, use the terminology of control systems, which means you gotta tell me what is the plant or the process. What are the signals? Okay, so I want you to pick something. Guys, how many of you here are hunters? Any hunters? Okay, you got a dog to hunt with? You got to train that dog, right? So maybe the thing of interest to you is how do I train my dog to turn it into a hunting dog? So the process is the dog. What are the inputs? Tell me what are the inputs to the dog? What are the outputs? What is the desired behavior? What is the controller in this picture? Okay, so use the terminology, you know, what is the plan, what is the process, what are the signals, what is the compensator? Okay. Find something interesting I'd like to describe. If you go to Canvas and look at the way the information is organized, you'll see that there's a folder called Interesting Systems. Okay, and I've put in a few interesting systems. Some of them were from previous semesters' classes. I've had students talk about hunting, fishing, something related to work. I've had people talk about hobbies, like how to make a good pizza. You know, I want it to taste a certain way. I have this in my mind, what it actually tastes like. You know, what is the process? Oh, it's, you know, this and that. It's your model. Okay? This may be a little bit challenging. This may be the first time you've had to try to describe things in this way. And in a control systems engineer's life, this is really about 80 to 85% of our profession is trying to model, trying to describe what it is that we're trying to control. There's one philosophy that says you shouldn't try to control things that you don't understand. Okay? You shouldn't try to control things that you don't understand. That's one philosophy. But there are other people who have, and so if you follow that philosophy, that means you want to try to understand it as much as possible, this plant or this process. Okay? You want to become a student of the plant or the process. Going back to the dating example, it's just like you might want to spend some time, young lady, find out what this young man, what makes him tick. Okay? So that's one philosophy. Control engineers may spend a lot of time trying to figure this out. And we do this in a variety of ways. We take physics classes, we take circuits classes, we take electronics classes, because we want to learn the underlying science of what goes on. Now, there's other philosophies about control systems engineers. Some control systems engineers simply say, hey, look, this is an impossible task. It's impossible to write differential equations that describe this lady. First of all, her behavior today won't be the same tomorrow. She will change her mind. That's the woman's prerogative, is to change her mind. Okay? So that means she's time varying. Okay? She's also probably nonlinear. I give her one flower, she's gonna smile. But if I give her 2 flowers, will she smile twice as big? Probably not. Okay, so the world is really, in general, time varying, it's nonlinear, it's very, very complicated. So what do you do in that case? So there's a different philosophy about that, but that's the reality of life. So in this class, we're going to try to do a little bit of both. We're going to try to spend some time modeling. So this is your first exercise. Think about what is this interesting thing and what might be the model for it. Okay? Now, again, like I said, none of the homeworks are graded. I'm not going to give you a grade per se, but I just want you to do this exercise. I will read everything. I hope to learn something about you, and maybe I'll give you some feedback on your model there. Okay, I've been running on. Any questions? This classroom was remodeled a few years ago. I love the remodel job in many ways, but there are some things that I think were not well thought out. This class used to have all the chairs this way, and doing things this way presents some challenges. So please get here, in time, so that if you come in, you don't have to ask people to move up and stuff like that. So you can squeeze by with that humongous backpack. You also notice that they have this glass thing. It looks nice, but I discovered
I don't like it. I have never liked this technology, the marker technology, simply because I'm a little old-fashioned. I've never been failed by a piece of chalk, but I'm often failed by the markers, and so I won't be using this. I've noticed that there's also a glare on the board, and so people don't see things very well. So what I typically do is I use the document camera, and I've learned over the years to try to keep things in this form. Now, the advantage of this as well is that by the end of the hour, I'll have all my notes for that day on a piece of paper, and I usually keep it for the semester. So if you're out of town, you got a wedding to go to, you got a job interview, I hope you're getting a lot of those, and you say, hey, can I have the notes? I'll be more than happy to scan them off and email them to you. Sir, your name?
Matthew.
Matthew. Matthew is asked for permission to record the class. My feel is absolutely. You're more than welcome to do that, any of you. He says that he may have a way to put the lectures online. So get to know Matthew and figure out how to get to those lectures. Okay? Anything else? Okay. Periodically, we will not meet here. We will meet over in Shelby in a room which has a bunch of computers, because I want to try to demonstrate basically how engineers would do things in practice by using tools like MATLAB, computer-based tools, to do some analysis and stuff. The things that we will be examined on here, of course, are the classical hand-based manual way of doing things. We typically don't really do things that way in practice anymore because we have the benefit of the computer, but I haven't figured out a way how to give computer-based exams yet for a large class. So we still give examinations over techniques which are the old-fashioned hand-based methods. Does that mean the old-fashioned hand manual methods are not useful? No, they're actually still quite useful because they serve as a sanity check. Okay? So you will be faced with a control systems problem. You go sit down at the computer and you say, I think I'm going to do this. And I analyze it and I say, hey, wait a minute, that's not what I expected. And that comes from some experience by doing things the old-fashioned hand-based methods. Okay? And you would say, is it because I entered the model wrong? Or maybe there's something here deeper than I expected and we need to look into it more closely. The ability to make those decisions comes from understanding the classical hand-based methods. I will try to finish up classes a little bit early so that y'all can go and hear next class. But the other reason is I got to teach another control system class to graduate students right away over in Shelby. And so I got to sprint. Okay? So the homework 0, if you can, today's Monday. If you can turn it in Wednesday, great. If you can't, it's no big deal. I would like to get it soon because I can learn about you sooner rather than later. Okay, and you all have a good day.